Hey, this is Christian Buckley doing another MVP Buzz Chat interview, and I'm here with Christina. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing well. Christina, for folks that don't know you, why don't you introduce yourself, where you are, what you're doing, all that kind of stuff.
Christina Wheeler. I live in Bon Air, Georgia, which is south of Atlanta. I do not live in Atlanta. I'm near Macon, Warner Robins Air Force Base.
So minutes away from Atlanta.
That's what people seem to think.
Everything's a 5-10 minute drive from Atlanta, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Slightly bigger, state than that. Yeah.
So I'm a solution architect. I have a big, strong SharePoint background. I have an old school BI background, and I'm kind of, look what I'm wearing today. Kind of going back to my BI roots, but basically, though, you butthead. Say hi to Hank.
Yeah. I should point out that this is attempt number 2 in recording this, because last time we had a lot of dog interaction happening.
Come here, Hank. Yeah, we did, and he's barking at him because he wants the bone. And because I just took Hank's away, come get it. You come get it. Come get it. So this is version 2, which I wore them out, but it was so hot out I had to freshen up. And of course, they were passed out.
And now they're rested. They're rested and ready to go again. That's right.
Yeah, here's the bone. Take it. Yeah, here's our butts. So Connor has his bone. Hank has his. Yeah. But Hank wants Kona's. So, anyways, I'm based in Middle Georgia, and it's extremely, extremely hot today. Humidity, and I can't get my house to cool down. So if you see me sweat at all, you'll know why.
It's the pressure that of recording one of these, very demanding interviews. Yes. Well, that's great. Well, so I know you and I have known each other for a long time, and I consider you one of the old guard of the SharePoint world as well. So I think I met you at SharePoint conference 2009. You were at that one, weren't you?
Goodness.
If I didn't, I met you in early 2010. So through the various SharePoint Saturdays and other events and stuff, because we've seen each other for ages.
Yeah. But I'm like visioning in my head. Yeah, gosh, it's been
all the SP TechCons, of course, and so I started going to all that in 2010 as well, and so going back quite a while. But yeah, so Christina is one of these people that for a long time. I'll say this out, props your way, is that Christina's sessions always were jammed packed, always full rooms, and it was one of those people who were like, wait, Christina, how come you're not an MVP yet? So how long have you been an MVP now?
Oh, only, I just got awarded the second time. I'm bribing him with cheese, by the way.
Yeah, second time. It's like, that's one of those where there's a few folks that are like that, where you just think like, why did it take so long? And that's part of the enigma that is the MVP process, the award, where for those of us that are in the community and speaking at conferences and do a lot of user groups that are traveling the country and the world doing events, and there's certain people we see over and over and over again, and so I was happy that you finally became an MVP.
Thank you.
So
you know what, I do what I love, and to be honest, it was never a goal of mine to become an MVP. Now, I'm grateful I am one now, but I do what I love. I have a passion to teach and share knowledge, and I'll never forget, I'll never forget when I did my first SharePoint Saturday. You're going to see me fumbling with cheese. I did my first SharePoint Saturday, Virginia. No, I can't remember, but it was all a lot of DOJ people that were attendees.
DC? Was it one of the DC events?
No, it was Virginia, but the border. It was SharePoint Saturday. It was my first one speaking at it. I was nervous. I was shaky. And it was an interesting one because a lot of the audience didn't laugh for anybody's sessions. So a lot of the speakers started playing crickets. We had put crickets on our phone, or we had the app to do the sound. So the speakers would all be laughing. Yeah. And of course, no one else would be laughing. And so that's when I had my first taste of, a DOJ audience.
Was that the best practices conference, or was it a SharePoint?
No, that was another one though. Yeah.
That was another one. Same region.
Yep.
Same group of unfunny people apparently, or non-laughing people.
They're really nice, but when they're sitting in a session, they're extremely serious. So it was always my goal then, after that, to if I can make DOJ people laugh, then I knew I did something right.
You know, it's funny. I was expecting. I've done a couple audiences that were like that. I went and I was doing a presentation in Nanjing in China, and it took, after doing a couple jokes where I was waiting and telling the audience, I just thought it could be a language thing. No, their English was pretty good in that room,
Okay.
and I'm just and I felt like they needed to like be let, once they knew it was okay to be laughing, that I was trying to do a bunch of jokes throughout, and then they kind of warmed up around that. And sometimes that's what you have to do with the audience is just kind of gauge that, lighten it up sometimes.
Well, you know what, and it doesn't help that, like I said, that I was nervous. It was my first time. But then I started getting involved with SharePoint Saturdays, and then I think, yeah, the Best Practices Conference was one of my first paid conferences, and just been going from there. But I fell in love with the community. Absolutely love the community, and I've been doing it ever since.
Well, you talked about this. I mean, you've been in the SharePoint space. You're still doing a bunch of SharePoint stuff, but you're getting more into your roots. So, kind of, what are you focused on now? And has that changed what you're presenting on, talking about, or is it just where kind of work or your interests are going that are shifting back to the Power BI world and the data world?
So a lot of my sessions come from my real world projects, things I've learned, things I've implemented, stuff like that. And so I am doing a lot of Power BI sessions and PowerApps. And then one session I'm starting to do a lot of is based on a customer project I did that was a painful project, which is why it became a very great session, because all the feedback I've been getting from this session is, thank you so much for showing us this is what we're starting to get into. We're so glad to see that we're not the only ones that have issues. And that's my perspective on training, on presenting at conferences and everything. I like to bring what I've done and present it and help people learn from that. And so I'm doing, some of my sessions are on, some of my sessions are on building overall solutions, which fits since I'm a solution architect. But I'm getting heavily more involved in Power BI. I love living in the Power BI world, but I still love building solutions. What I'm scaling back from is just doing SharePoint 24/7. I mean, that's all I did before.
Right.
But
you were on the road a ton, and I know we talked about the failed recording, but about how you were out my direction. So I'm down south of Salt Lake City, and were you flying in here and driving up, or were you here?
I was going to Idaho Falls.
Oh, Idaho Falls, right.
And the thing is that you always have to connect in Salt Lake, which, by the way, I do love the Salt Lake airport.
It's only getting better. It's going to be fantastic once it's all built out. So it launches late next year, I think.
Okay. Well, you guys, there's some good food in there. And I'm very picky about food.
Yeah.
So the times that I drove is when I would fly in and my bag somehow did not make the flight. And I had no choice but to wait. And I'll never forget the last time I was supposed to get in at 4:00 in the afternoon. I didn't get into Idaho Falls till 4 a.m. because you have limited flights. So I ended up renting a car and just driving from Salt Lake. That's when I discovered some cool spot because I was starving. So midnight, 1 a.m. And then I'm driving down to Idaho Falls in the life of a consultant, right? I stopped at a rest stop, slept an hour, showed up, and then slept another hour, and then was at the client site. I was wrecked.
And for those that have never done that drive from Salt Lake up, there's long stretches of nothing.
Yep.
Very long.
It's very hard to stay awake if it's in the middle of the night and you're driving.
Right. In fact, I mean, there's pretty much some activity up from Salt Lake to Ogden, and above that, past Logan, which is off to the east, and kind of you skip by it. There's nothing until you get to Idaho Falls. I mean, there's literally nothing. There's little townlets.
I don't even remember what I saw. I just know my goal was to get there and not fall asleep on the road, and I made it. But I did remember messaging the customer, letting them know that, hey, FYI, I'm flying.
Here's the state I will be in. Yes.
Yeah, I'm on my way, but I'm stopping at a rest stop.
Yeah, that's very nice. Well, so talking about some of the shift and some of the interests. So I know you're doing the other Microsoft conferences. So Yeah. So why don't you talk about that? Like, what did you present at the most recent?
So I did the Microsoft Business Application Summit, and I did a 2-hour Power BI workshop, and I did my first theater session on PowerApps. And the theater, I was nervous about doing a theater session, especially with having ADD. I'm thinking, oh, all the noise around, I don't know if I can do this. And it actually went really well. I timed it perfectly, and I was okay with the background noise. Techorama, I did a beginning intro to developing apps for teams, and what else? I think I did an intro to PowerApp session. But I'm going more of the business, business platform conferences and dev conferences. I'm also going back to my dev roots. I'm starting to get heavily involved. I've been working on writing some custom visuals for Power BI. This is based on customer requirements, and I'm really enjoying that. Of course, that was a bit of a learning curve for me because I'm used to developing for a SharePoint. But I love it, absolutely love it. And then I'm getting into the whole app templates and getting into the team stuff. So, what I've been doing, I think, is kind of figuring out where I want to spend a lot of my time right now. And that's where I'm enjoying it. But I will say that these conferences have been great. I'm also been dealing a lot with Dynamics. So some of the conferences have been, Power BI or, BI and Dynamics, focused.
Have you been working a lot with customers? I mean, you see an uptick in customer activity around each of those?
Yes, F&O. A lot of customers are, they either go Salesforce or they're going Dynamics, financials and operations. But what I'm seeing is a lot of customers are saying, hey, we have Office 365. We have these manual processes. We're using Dynamics. We have this, we have that. Can you automate us? Can you make our business process better? And that's what I've always enjoyed doing. And that's what I'm doing now. That's what I've done in the past, even on different platforms. But I love, seeing what manual processes customers are still doing, surprisingly, and helping them integrate solutions that's going to help better their business.
What are some examples of that common problems that you're seeing at multiple clients?
So some customers are still heavily on paper trails.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of that. So one of the customers of the projects I did was they are a big ski resort and they have these vendor requests that come in, and it was all paper, email and paper. And so I automated that. I used SharePoint as the data platform side. I used PowerApps as the input for the data. And then so they would get a vendor request. I would also use Flow. So they'd get a vendor request. A Flow would trigger to send off the notification to the approver. The approver then would go in, validate everything, and if they accepted it, then in the Flow, if it's a new vendor request, it would create the new vendor record in Dynamics. And if it was updating an existing record, it had the other action in Flow to update the record. So that's, kind of the processes that I've been implementing. But it's just...
with all the talk about, the digital transformation, I mean, that's the nuts and bolts of what it actually looks like. Because even companies, as you say, customers that already have like all of the products that are out there, but they then still have these, ancient processes and just the things that work just fine. But now they've got the tools to be able to go in there and automate a lot of those activities. And that's what a lot of digital transformation is all about.
And what I'm finding is the customers have the products, but they don't know how to tie it all together. Right. And so that's where I come into place, and other consultants, like me and you, come in and say, okay, you know what? You have the products. Now let me show you how we can build this. Let me build a solution for you, and then show you how to support it and everything.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the key there is that you think like everybody knows how to use Word and Excel, and yet when you actually look at, there's data, there's telemetry behind it. Microsoft is well aware of, what is actually being used. It's something like 10% of the features in Excel are being used on average. And there's so many other things. Yeah, there's a lot of, one-off, kind of niche, features that are there. It's very powerful, but it's just like all these other solutions. We have it, we're doing kind of mainstream collaboration, a lot of, employee onboarding, adoption and engagement activities. It's all about training, just making people aware of, hey, were you aware that it could also go and do this?
Yeah. Well, and I love the wow factor that I still always get. Even from the SharePoint side, when I used to do SharePoint training, I would go in and I would show them these things. And I'm like, wow, Christina, this is amazing. And I laugh and I said, guys, I'm not even scratching the surface on what I'm showing you right now. And then a lot of my work I get is from just training, because I train, they realize, you know, they look at, wow, we thought we knew SharePoint, or we thought we knew this or Power BI or that. And then they realize they are, you know, they have a lot to learn. And so that's what I love doing, is going in and helping both on the training side and the implementation and building, you know, solutions. These guys, I hope they don't get sick. I'm literally going through a whole bag of cheese.
What could go wrong? Dogs love cheese.
They're probably going to get constipated.
Yeah, that could go wrong. Yeah.
Sit. TMI, Christina. I'm such a huge. I say way too much.
That's what we were talking before we started recording. So you got your big dogs. I grew up with big dogs. I had Airedale Terriers, and I love. In fact, when my kids were little, my youngest was a year old or just less than a year old. We bought a dog. It was a puppy. She was half Great Dane, half Mastiff.
Huge. I mean, both of those dogs are big dogs.
So she inherited the narrowness of the Great Dane, even though tall, yeah, and then had the more of the height of the Mastiff, so looked like a shorter, more petite Great Dane. So she took on like the lessers, but still a huge dog. I'm sure bigger than, you know, either of your dogs there.
Yeah.
Just it was going to be giant.
But yeah, those are giant dogs. My dogs are big dogs, but no, Great Danes, those ginormous.
But but my wife was not grew up with cats. I don't understand cat people. Sorry if people out there.
I had 2 cats upstairs. I've had since Kiana was younger, and I don't know how long cats live, but I don't even know. I lost count on what their age are.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a dog person, but So now it took us 15 years to convince my wife to get another dog, and we went and did rescues with both of ours, and so we've got the mini pin Jack Russell Terrier mix, and then a year later we picked up it's a Cairn Terrier Chihuahua mix, and they're a handful.
Your dogs are cool. Oh
yeah, they're cute. They're a lot of fun, and for working at home, and you know, I'm not traveling as much. I'm doing more video. It's great to have the companionship, especially, you know, we're like briefly now not an empty nester again, but we're empty nesters. My son is back, but you know, they're leaving in less than a month. I've got a nephew here as well, and they're moving in together with friends down at a house for the school for the fall. And so it would be my wife and I who goes to school and works full time. So the dogs around is great.
Oh no, well, that's why I have 2 dogs, because, you know, the whole empty nest thing. Speaking of empty nest, my daughter just turned 24 today.
Woohoo!
So we need happy birthday, Kiana.
Happy birthday.
Big old 24. She lives, you know, 2 hours away, so I'm not here today, but
that's close enough that when you need to be near mom to go see mom, far enough away to have some space.
So my rescue is so well behaved, and my Labrador, I love him dearly. He's 8, but man, he's a thorn in my side. Sit. You're such a thorn in my side.
Well, what's so as far as people being able to find you, they want to find out more about you and what you're doing. What, you know, where can they find you out in the interwebs?
So I need to change my domain since I don't just use SharePoint, but right now it's SharePointWheeler.com. I have always list. Speaking of that, I got to update it with another event. But you go to events, and then you'll be able to see what are all my upcoming conferences that I'll be speaking at. Yep. So,
which I need to update my list as well. Of course, you can go to like mvp.microsoft.com and look for Wheeler. You can find her that way.
Well, you know, and it's funny because I kind of did that for myself too, because people go, oh, what do you have going on next? I'm like, oh, wait, let me check. And I just pull up my blog site and go to events, and I'm like, oh yeah, look, this is what I have going on.
That's the number one reason why I do it. So I maintain it on one location on one site, you know, not have it. I don't have to update multiple lists, multiple locations, but it's same thing.
All gone.
Well, cool. Well, Christina, it was great to finally be able to connect with you and chat.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll I'll see you when I see you. I don't know. Well, I'll see you.
And I'll let you know when I can head back to. I mean, what I've been doing the past few days is stuff for INL, so I'll let you know when I come back to Idaho Falls. And then I'll just
Yeah.
kind of
Come do the drive again. Yeah.
And then I'll make sure this next time we actually can connect in Salt Lake.
Yeah. No worries.
Sounds good.
We can spend an afternoon in Lagoon, do some rides. Yeah.
That would be cool. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. Bye.